But by late November 2016, she had dropped to an abysmal 4%, according to a Gallup Korea poll. Even staunch supporters in her own party abandoned her in droves. It's hard to imagine something similar taking place in the United States under almost any condition. So, what did it take for Korean conservatives finally to wake up to the news? Showing up at the ballot box. Park's downfall didn't begin with her baroque scandal, which involved giving top-secret information to her Rasputin-like confidante, her involvement in a reportedly shamanistic cult, a McCarthy-like blacklist, and her receipt of more than 23 billion won, $20.66 million, in bribes. It began months before, when Park's Conservative Party lost 24 seats in the 2016 legislative elections, falling 146 seats down to 122 seats in the 300-seat National Assembly. It was a devastating loss, attributed to her party's deselection of candidates who are seen as insufficiently loyal. Koreans saw this as an affront to their democracy and voted accordingly, marking the start of Park's precipitous decline in approval and robbing her of any political capital with which to weather the coming scandal. Hitting the streets. Second, people hit the streets. On one Sunday in December 2016, up to 2.3 million protesters showed up to demand Park's resignation amid the corruption scandal. It was the largest rally in the nation's history. Rejecting the old narratives of racial and economic pride, Koreans turned to a different page in history, the democratization movement of the 1980s. Park's election as South Korea's first female president had made the nation seem more woke than most, and the economy was on a tear, leading liberal activists of the raison d'etre. But her corruption scandal gave the nostalgic left the perfect reason to replay a classic 80s hit. Social tuning, or the process of adopting other people's attitudes, almost certainly also played a role here. If you turned on the nightly news to see a major protest in New York, your likeliness of siding with the protesters will probably increase with their size. Given enough people, you might feel yourself facing a choice between the remaining members of your party and your fellow Americans. Staying informed. South Korea is a society that emphasizes education. It has among the highest global literacy rates in science, reading and math. It also has the highest rate of tertiary education in the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. This is a well-educated population with an existential reason to stay at least moderately well-informed. The 2012 campaign to spread disinformation may have tipped the scales for Park, but generally speaking, their level of education means that South Koreans are not easily taken in by false reports. It's also worth noting that Korea is home to a different business model for online news outlets. Instead of resorting to subscriptions, donations or traffic from aggregators, outlets can partner with Naver, the so-called Google of Korea. This means Naver pays news outlets to feature their content, theoretically allowing for sweeping changes to rapidly defend against disinformation, such as banning the use of automation software. But the business model is not without problems of its own. A Korea BizWire report from April noted that Naver has been accused of being complicit in spreading fake news and rigging public opinion. In response, Naver CEO Han Seong-suk pledged in May a complete overhaul of the site, such that the company will no longer edit or arrange news, but will leave that to news outlets themselves. This is a crucial step because, as with Facebook, its dominance, most Koreans reportedly get their news from Naver, offers great opportunities for change but comes with serious risks. Although there are several similarities between Trump and Park, it would be foolhardy to push the comparison too far. For one thing, Trump has not been accused of taking bribes as Park has. Also, during Park's scandal, South Korea was experiencing rising unemployment and household debt, problems Trump doesn't have. His protectionist policies will likely bring them on, but only time will tell. And some may argue that unity in South Korea wouldn't have been possible were it not for the fact that it lacks significant racial diversity, but this ignores the very deep divisions in Korean society along regional, religious, economic and political lines. Yet Koreans overcame these divisions. Conservatives, in particular, chose to invest in democracy rather party politics, and Park's party nearly broke in half. Back in America, there are good reasons to be hopeful. The formula outlined above is a simple one: speak up, stand up, red up, and Americans are doing well. Democrats appear to be winning the race for Congress, and four of the biggest protests in U.S. history, the 2017 Women's March, the 2018 Women's March, the March for Our Lives, and the 2017 March for Science, have taken place since Trump assumed office. The government is also actively investigating Russia's disinformation campaign, while social media giants such as Facebook, which aggregates the news for many in ways not unlike Naver, scramble to address the issue. This is not an argument for complacency. Voter turnout could be higher, activism stronger, and the public can always be better informed. If anything, we should stay on this road and step on the gas. At his 500-day mark, Trump had the second highest own party approval rating of any president since World War II. Last month, that figure slipped from 90% to 82%, its biggest drop so far, though it has since recovered to 87%. But we can regain that momentum. We need a sustained public outcry, a willingness to read the news with a keener eye, and some consideration about the shape of our media landscape. Most of all, we need to figure out where we stand together and what it is that makes us all Americans despite everything that sets us apart. That kind of insight was on full display during South Korea's demonstrations. Confronted with rank corruption, Koreans responded with dignity. How bad would things have to get for us to hit 4% approval with Trump, whose overall approval rating currently stands at 40%, according to Gallup? We may never see the Republican Party abandon him at such rates, no matter how bad things get. But it doesn't have to be that way.